Come here, Babu. Come here. Okay, fine. Don't come here. My dog. He ignores me. All right.
Unless there's food.
Yeah, that very true. Very true. Well, folks, guess what? It's that time again.
It's that time again. Hello, Voidwalkers. Welcome to the Confabulators. I'm Dave,
And I'm Liz.
and we're here to talk about some confabulation. And if you don't know what that means, ask your grandma.
Hmm.
Um,
And if your grandma ain't around to ask, then find you a necromancer and
yep,
get them to wake her up.
yep.
Because grandma knows best.
Time to stop being a bunch of lazy bones, Grandma. It's time to wake up and tell us what confabulators means.
Hmm. Alrighty. But so, now then, Dave, what is our topic going to be for today?
Oh boy, we're in for a hunting down good time with some Dead by Daylight.
The Dead by
Which
Daylight, the DBD guys, the dubs.
them dub dubs. Uh, I debated between this and another game as my favorite horror game.
Okay, what was the
Uh,
other game though? I'm curious.
it would be The Binding of Isaac. Um,
I'm not even
and
surprised.
and there's reasons for both, right? Um, like Isaac, I've got golly, how many hours do I have in Isaac? Let me take a quick gander here. Binding of Isaac. Let's see here. Okay, that plus that. I've got over 2,000 hours in the Binding of Isaac grand total from the
Oh,
very first one all the way up to the current release.
oh my gosh,
Which
that's
there's a
insane.
small patch update. Yeah, they're trying to make it go online so that way people can play multiplayer online.
Oh, dude,
Um,
dude. Wait, I need to know something. You said over 2,000 hours?
yes, I have over 2,000 hours of Isaac.
That is over 83 days.
Yeah. And then I'll give you another one with Dead by Daylight. I've got 3,571 hours.
Oh my- By comparison,
Yeah,
I actually would have thought that number would have been a lot higher because you do play it a lot more than I do.
I do.
And I've played it a
Um,
lot, but you've put in more. You've been playing it longer than I have because you started before me, so you've already put in more hours.
yeah. Uh, I started. Oh shoot, when? I know how to find out. If I go to the store page, it should tell me
Yeah.
when I first bought it. No, no.
I remember when you introduced myself and our little circle to it because oddly enough, you were the only one that had played it, which is actually kind of surprising that the rest of us hadn't actually tried it at all
Yeah.
when I think about it.
Um, there's a better way. If I look at Steam achievements, I can probably find the earliest one.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, when
let's
was
see
it you
here.
introduced us?
October 27, 2020 was my first achievement.
But that wasn't when but you introduced us at least a year before that.
Really?
Yeah, because I remember the first time I tried to, I remember, I want to say it was like a year between that session we had that one night where you played as killer and absolutely trashed all of us. I think that was in 2019
That
because
doesn't make sense.
but because it predated COVID.
Really?
Yeah,
Are you sure?
absolutely.
Huh.
Because then I did eventually, about a year later, I worked up the courage to actually play it a little bit more,
When did
I
I
think.
know? Because I remember I first got it when yeah, I first got it September 8th, 2020, roundabout.
Really?
Because that was when The Blight came out.
Really?
Yeah.
I could swear we played it a year earlier.
Yeah.
Oh, this is gonna bug me
Because
now.
because I always remember that because that was also like right after The Blight, the twins came out.
Oh.
Um and they were very remarkably specific characters.
Okay.
The Blight because he's super speedy man who's always been on the top for the most part when people understood him,
Mm-hmm.
and the twins have always been on the bottom because they've been so janky all the time, and behavior doesn't know quite how to get them just right.
Yeah.
Like there's some chemistry and some misunderstandings that's present when it comes to like the twins as well as some other characters. But speaking specifically of the twins, um, I know twins players like Pixelbush and Linksy, they they are huge twins fans and they have their thoughts about like how to balance twins better because that's their main,
Yeah.
right?
And I just, okay,
Um,
I just confirmed because I found I got our timeline at least somewhat worked out because
okay.
you'd already been playing Dead by Daylight when you introduced us to it. You gifted me Dead by Daylight
Mhm.
August 1st, 2019.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay,
And you'd
maybe
already
it's
been
before
playing it
then
at that
then.
point. Yeah. Yeah.
I I have the world's worst memory.
I was certain it was before COVID because I didn't get into playing it until during COVID.
That's wild. Then
So, but yeah,
I
you
wonder
gifted me.
why I wonder why my achievements are like all the way through to 2020 and not 2019.
Did they maybe reset somehow or something?
No?
Oh, weird. But
I
yeah,
mean, the
no,
thing
I literally I just pulled up I was like, wait a minute, I can find the email because I realized I'm like, I didn't buy this game myself. You gifted it to me.
cuz
And I literally have the you received a Steam gift.
the only thing I can think of is like um that I must have just gifted it and then either they didn't have achievements until 2020
They might not
or
have.
or or I just didn't play until 2020 because that's the only explanation for the
Mhm.
achievements that I have.
But you had been
'Cause-
playing before then because you gifted it when we all did our attempt at playing it, and you'd already been playing it. So you had played it some at least. You played it enough that you trashed all of us and you knew your way around. Because that was why
so
we did that customs game because the rest
yeah.
of us were like too like social anxiety to go do it in like a strangers group, and you're like, well, I'll play as
Mhm.
killer, and then you guys we all know each other and we can all be on chat together, and you know like you can coach us because there wasn't a noticeable, like it wasn't until sometime after that that they, I think, either re-added or actually created the tutorial with the bots, because I remember that was part of what kept me from getting into it early on was I'm like, there's no tutorial, I can't like learn offline. So I was
Mhm.
afraid to like jump in and actually play it. But yeah,
Yeah.
you had already been playing it at that point. But I bet you what it is they just didn't have achievements until 2020. Because they
Maybe.
did a lot of updating and new chapter rollouts.
I guess so. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
But okay. I guess it's 2019. Wow. I
Yeah.
remember it being as far back as Blight. I don't remember it being that far back.
Nope, I remember
Bananas.
that. I think because that first night was the first time I played it. It stood out that it was like hilarious. Also because you just absolutely trashed us. Okay,
Wow.
excuse me while I adjust myself in my chair because my leg is hurting. But yeah, I just remember like we were sitting. That was also the first time, and you played as Huntress. And I
Mhm.
remember we were in our little like I think it was like I can't remember. I know we had like Rachel and BJ with us, and I remember us going, "Wait a minute, the Huntress sounds like Rachel."
Yeah. I think I don't remember if Josh was there either, but I
I
know like
remember.
in subsequent matches, like when we played together, Josh came in
Hmm.
and he got hold of Huntress, like he tried Huntress and like instantly fell in love. Like he just has a natural talent for that character. I don't know what it is,
Yep, yeah.
but like
We've had
damn,
so much fun in customs games.
we
Honestly,
have.
too, of the games that like have like an online component, and this is gonna be me definitely shouting out Dead by Daylight for really nailing something. It is one of the few games like there's lots of MMORPGs and everything out there where you can do like online combat against other characters. I know Lotro, you can duel. I think in Star Wars The Old Republic online, you can duel or something. And a lot of those games, I don't really quest or duel or do anything co-op unless it's with people I know. Otherwise, I'm just like, people will be like, come join us. And I'm like, fuck off. Bye. Like, it's literally me. I'm like, I'll join your guild so that I get perks. That's it. Um,
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm out. I'm not hanging around. Um,
Yeah.
DBD and I won't even like even Left 4 Dead I didn't get into doing like pubs games. I only played with you guys. Like you guys are the only people I've ever played Left 4 Dead with at all.
Mhm.
Like I never could work up the nerve to go into anything else. DBD is the only one where I'm like, this is hilarious. I've got to jump in and especially because I run Survivor pretty much all
Yeah.
the time. And I pubs games in DBD are hilarious. And I will say to their credit, I think it's because the developers have put so much thought and are constantly revisiting and updating the game and improving it, but that they've put a lot into how it is fun for people and you don't have to sit there and know each other.
Mhm.
I mean, 'cause the hilarity of DBD is how stupid simple the context that like technically is. I mean,
Yeah. Um, so for me, I would equate Dead by Daylight to like how people have bowling night and they kind of just like get together as like a group and they just go bowling and like have a good time or whatever. They don't take it too seriously, but it's something that they do because it's a bonding thing.
oh, it's like
Now,
bowling and trivia nights, I feel like.
yeah, exactly. And I do have friends who play. I enjoy playing with friends, but I also enjoy just playing killer as well. I'm 50-50. I play half survivor, half killer, but I consider myself a killer main.
You're very good at
Um,
Killer Main.
well, thank you. Um, but when it comes to the game itself, I don't take it seriously because there's nothing to really take seriously.
Hmm.
I used to take it seriously because I was just in my head and like I don't know. I had dumb ethical stuff stuffed in my head. Um
We all
that
do at some
shouldn't,
point. You're okay.
yeah. But when you take the approach that MST3K has where it's like it's just a game, just relax. It's
Hmm.
fine, right?
Yeah.
That's when you can actually start kind of like having fun. You can give yourself permission to have fun. You can run around and maybe it's a killer who's like going to tunnel you or whatever. It's like, okay, that just gives you an opportunity to like get good at chases,
Hmm.
right? Because if you don't get away from them, they're going to down you, right? And so it kind of trains you to learn how to chase better.
Yeah.
Um, and if you get slugged, I mean, there's kind of like not a lesson in regards to slugging. Slugging is just kind of
Hit them.
something that happens. Because the only lesson that I think killers who mainly do slugging would say is uh bring unbreakable or bring unbreakable is what they would say. And I don't find that to be compelling because that is a specific perk and not everybody wants to bring that perk. People want to do other things. People want to try out builds. They want to try out combinations. And sometimes they just don't want to like think about slugging. They just want to like go in and have like a good time. Just kind of like run around, get chased, bullshit with the killer.
Hmm. I love
Um,
it. I love it. Some of my best experiences have been just like total bullshit happening in
yeah.
around. Total bullshit
One
and
of
everybody dies.
yeah, one of my favorite experiences that I still remember to this day. There's two moments within the same match. It's versus a nurse on Batum, and I'm doing pretty okay in chase. There's a little fence at Maine, right? It's a little white picket fence that you can vault over the middle of. I go to vault it. She teleports there and she gets a grab on me. And it surprises, it's just like out of nowhere. I'm like, holy shit. Right. The other one is I'm in a building and she's kind of like hovering around or whatever. Like it seems like that she was chasing somebody else. I jump out the second floor window. She teleports right there at the doorway and hits me. I couldn't help but laugh. It was
Oh,
funny. She just had like good timing, and she was also saying the same thing. She's like, "Damn, I did not expect those weird, funny things to happen." And
right.
there they were.
I still remember a few times, like, oh my gosh, the number of time, to me, the beauty of one of the beauties of Dead by Daylight is the nonverbal communication that happens in it.
Yeah,
That happens with total strangers, where you've got, like, what was it? The survivors have three different hand signals: point, come here, and then, well, I know it's supposed to be squatting to duck. It's their ducking, but everybody just does it like teabagging.
yeah.
Like, it's like
They
if you
have.
want to get somebody's attention, you just start teabagging wherever you are. And it's just like
Yep.
up, down, up, down, up, down. But I'm just like, it's like those are the only ways you can communicate in game if you're not on an audio channel with somebody.
Yeah.
And the bullshit that takes place that somehow works when you've got three signals to communicate with people, and just like the body language, like the killers don't technically have any communication type like motions with players, but like I remember more than a few games somehow managing to survive, outlive everybody else, but we didn't succeed in getting all the generators we needed. So then it's like, oh, I guess this is going to be a hatch game. But then
Mhm.
my dumbass can never fucking find the hatch. No matter what I do. You have seen me run an entire map and have no idea where the fuck the hatch is. I'm still dodging the killer to the point that the game actually basically just times out and kills me anyways. Or the times that I did, I was thinking of like the one time I was on a map and I couldn't find the hatch, and then the killer finally caught up to me. I forget. I think it wasn't the oh, I can't remember. He has the bell, I think.
Wraith.
I think it was the Wraith. I think it was the Wraith. I
Yes.
can't really remember, but I'm pretty sure it was the Wraith. He finally gets me, knocks me down, and of course, then it's like, well, I might be kind of fucked. I hadn't actually been hooked yet. So, but he gets me, and then I still remember I'd been sneaking around trying to find it for so long. And the moments that really get me is when the killer stops, stands over you, and waits for a while because everybody else is dead. So you're just helpless. Stands over me, picks me up, and I'm like, oh fuck, it's gonna end now. Walks past the hook, goes across the map, and drops me on top of the hatch that he's closed.
Yep.
It's just like, it's just like, the fuck? And then the killer just like walked off, like, okay, bye.
Like I'll tell you this,
I've
as a
also,
killer. Oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I've also had the killer literally like take. I also have had the killer literally like pick me up, carry me, and drop me next to an open hatch. Like, come here, dumbass. I'm taking pity on you.
Yeah.
The
I will
parental
say.
tone that has to it, even though they say nothing, is brilliant.
I will say, as a killer, we all have our code of ethics, so to speak, and it varies between one and another.
Mm-hmm.
Like me, I would consider myself a kinder killer than others.
You are.
Some are just merciless and ruthless,
Mm-hmm.
which is fine as well. Um, and I always play like this. Generally speaking, I will go for three kills and I will give the last one hatch. Why? Because I've already proven that I've won. There's no need to like get super sweat lord and go for the fourth kill or anything like that. It's just why?
Mm-hmm.
If you want to break it down in like a fluff kind of sense, you could be like, well, it's leaving the last person to tell the tale or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think
I
most of the
I
Rift achievements with Killer, it's like minimum three usually. So there's a lot of Rift
um
achievements. I think that it's like, as a killer, do this three times.
it kind of depends.
Yeah.
Like if you go back to the earliest tomes, like the first tome, oh my god, it is ruthless. It's hook all four survivors in basement. Kill all
Mm.
survivors in basement. Um
That's
it is in
brutal.
a 4K.
Oh my
Like and
gosh.
I've done those too. And let me tell you, people get pissed. People, and I've done it with like Hillbilly. Which back in the day, this was before his remake, before his massive overhaul that he got, which I think is only like a year and a half old now.
Hmm.
But he got before his massive overhaul. Uh, I was going for completing all the tomes because I'm like, let's see all these glowing books. And so I was like, okay, well, I got to get 4 people in the basement, and it's on like Haddonfield. This is like the first major change to Haddonfield, where it's long. It's got like 3 houses, or on one side of the street, 3 houses on the other side of the street, and there's a big no man's land in the middle,
Yeah.
with only like a few cars.
Yeah. The
It's
the no
before
man's land
the
that everybody.
current,
Yeah.
yeah, it's before the current iteration of Haddonfield, which is like a tiny square,
Hmm.
which I actually think is worse for the survivors.
I was gonna say I don't think I've seen the most current iteration of Haddonfield because the one you described first is the one that I know. Like the no man's
Yeah,
land in the street that everybody avoided and stayed out of because oh fuck.
yeah. You never got to experience the one that was like, I would call it survivor sided, but I
Mm-hmm.
liked it more because of some unique bits to it.
Hmm.
But that's beside the point. Anyway, so like I'm
We'll
running
get
around
there.
as hillbilly, and like I down a dude, and I go, all right, time to pick up, put in basement. I've got like agitation, and I've got iron grasp on. So not only is it harder for them to wiggle, but I move faster with somebody that's in my grasp. So it's
Hmm.
very easy to get somebody to basement. And basement on that Haddonfield always appears in main. So it's always in the same place.
Hmm.
So I go put person down there, and then I come back up and go for like another person. Uh then I get a notification that somebody's down there to get that person off the hook. I turn back around and I start going, and like I do like that. I just shove everybody in the basement,
Yep.
and I get an in-game chat that of people calling me an asshole. And I understand it.
Well,
I completely get it.
like the basement is one of those ones too that like, oh my gosh, the basement. I'm always very like. I try to be I main a survivor pretty much exclusively. Like you have seen me to play as killer, and I suck
Yeah.
so badly as killer. I main as survivor, and I have a lot of fun with it. But I will say I try to be a good magnanimous player and help my teammates when I can, but I also want to live. And I
Mhm.
will admit to I am very skeptical of going to rescue somebody when they are in the basement because if the killer goes out of the way to hook them in the basement, my brain instantly goes trap. And not like they've set traps, it's just like the basement is a trap. Because if the killer happens to be using the basement specifically like they want it, it's like you are bottlenecked in there.
It can be. It's
Yeah.
not as bad now as it used to be.
Oh, okay.
Because they instituted a mechanic where if the killer is within a certain range of a hook with a person on it, that person will get some progress on this bar. And once it maxes out, that person can unhook themselves
Oh, that's a new
without.
thing. See, I'm
Yeah,
still like my last times I was playing a lot was when it was still very rare to be able to unhook yourself.
so not only is it available to you on first hook, it's available to you on the second hook. So if
Oh.
somebody hooks you and just stands right next to you and nobody else comes close, you fill that bar up. If it's your second hook, you can still just unhook yourself.
That's
Um,
clever though because that rules out the campers,
it
which
makes
we
camping a little bit more difficult, but
yeah. It
it's not
makes
like
camping
hard.
less strategically favorable, which, you know, I do judge you people who camp as killers because come on, dudes, come on. I've had a few games that could have ended brilliantly except for one person just sitting there camping and I want to be like, dude, you probably could have still won without camping. And this would have been more fun.
I as I've grown into this game, I have been less and less concerned about camping.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. One, it gives the other players chances to get gens knocked out.
Hmm.
Uh, so as long as somebody randoms, as long as somebody is not trying to pull themselves off the hook without that bar being 100%, uh, it's fine. You just hang out because now it takes 70 seconds instead of 60 to go from hook state A to hook state B to hook state
Oh.
C. So
Okay.
70 and then another 70. So they've expanded it by 20 seconds,
Hmm.
in part because of killers still kind of camping around or proxy camping,
Hmm.
right? So it gives survivors more chance and more time to do gens.
Yeah.
So for people who are camping, it might mean a 1K, maybe a 2K,
Yeah.
depending. But it just means that camping is not as viable a strategy as it used to be.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I think that makes it more balanced though too, because the thing is like DBD is one of those games where like my take on camping is this is as a killer, if other than like friends games, if you're camping in a friends game, whatever, you and your friends can hash it out and fight it out, and that might be you just being a dick troll to your friends because you can. I would do that to friends if to just be I would be a dick troll to people I knew. The times when camping has annoyed me is when it's like, okay, there are two of us left, like this might be like when it's a very like, you know, there are two of this left. This is very even odds. So both people have already been hooked once, sort of things. It's like the time I remember somebody camping that was annoying, and one of the other players called out of like, "Hey, dude, not cool to camp." It was one of those ones where it's like this just wasted a lot of the game
mhm,
because you know, and but it was also because the guy literally was camping. Like he was almost not even getting out of eyesight sight line, and
mhm,
I was the one hooked. And I'm like, I don't mind them being within proximity and staying there, but still go out and look for other people or stay in proximity. But if you're gonna sit there and stay absolutely within my sight line while I'm on the hook, then okay, come on. Come on. You're like literally removing the ability for anybody else to get in and do anything. And when there's only one other player left. So
mhm.
either that player can risk it to go rescue you. Like it's one of those things that to me I'm like, you still have a good chance of winning when you're down to only two players left, especially if both have already been hooked at least once.
Mhm.
It's like, okay, you don't need to camp. You're just kind of being lazy about ending this. And at that point, and I have been known to, if I am already on like second hook, if I've realized that a killer is camping and it's down to like me and one other person, I will start doing the like trying to unhook myself, but I will do it intentionally to get them to stop trying to rescue
Mhm.
me. So I'll be like, this is me being like, don't save me. I'll basically, to try to get them to go like, go find yourself a way out. Go hatch
Yeah.
game. I'm dead
Well,
anyways.
well, like I said, for me, I don't mind camping.
Yeah.
If I'm being camped, I'm okay with it. Um, if it's down to two people and I'm on the hook, I will try to pull myself off and I will let myself die so that the
Yeah.
other person has a chance to get the hatch.
And see,
If
I've
they
done
come
that.
and get me, I'm sad.
Yeah. I don't mind if they come and get me. I guess it's kind of the nature of just to me, it's like camping, you want to be careful about how you use it in game because and I like that the developers have adjusted the mechanics to make it a less favorable solution because I know it's an easy solution, but it is kind of frustrating. Maybe not to everybody. Me, I kind of am just like, oh, this person camped. That was kind of annoying. I know for other people though, it's really bothersome. And it's like, come on, the game needs to be fun for everybody. And if you're doing something, and that's where I kind of fall in the camping end, is it's still a very mixed response. Some people do it, some don't. And I want to be like, try to be sensitive to the whole group, even though you don't know it, which means maybe be sparing about how you use it. Or if you're going to camp, be like more like proximity camp, leave an opening, you know.
I
And I don't mean deliberately leave an opening. I would just say don't be so overt about it. Like to me, that's where it gets me is when it's overt camping, you
I
know.
don't mind it, especially if it's Bubba. I'm
I mean,
perfectly fine. Listen, back in the day, and still today, there's this classic thing about Bubba Sawyer, aka the Cannibal, Leatherface, whatever you want to call him,
mm,
uh, where he would down somebody, he would hook that person, and he would stand right next to them and nod his head and all sorts of stuff like that.
I mean,
Chainsaw them while they're on hook,
but that's
all sorts
fun.
of stuff.
And see, that's where
Yeah,
I'm kind of on the
exactly.
fence with Dead by Daylight because some of it's just fun and funny. Like, I think it's hilarious sometimes when you get hooked, like when the killer hooks somebody and then they'll just sit there and swing at you because it's like, it's not doing anything. It's just kind of funny to watch the killer sit there and be like, let me trash you on the hook. If the killer wants to
And
sit there while you're on a hook, and like if a killer looks at me, like hooks me, and then wants to sit there and just be like on me on the hook, I'll probably laugh more than I'll be annoyed with it. It's when I can tell it's driving the other players nuts, which you can usually tell by looking at like, are they really trying to save you? And
Mhm.
like be a magnanimous player. And then it's like, okay, I can tell. Like, again, it's a weird thing where it's amazing how much communication happens when there's literally no way to verbally communicate unless you're in like some sort of vocal chat channel
yeah.
with people, which
Um
is, and I think that's where I've noticed it is I tend to like, you kind of can tell it from that sort of end is it's like, okay, this person's really trying and I'm sure they're getting annoyed because I can see that they're really trying to sneak over to help me, you
mhm.
know, and at this point I'm just being like, nope, nope, nope.
I
Just
will say
go finish, get out of here. Have a chance at the hatch that I never do because I suck at finding the hatch.
I will say um there's a lot of like really interesting ways to communicate in this game.
Mhm.
More have developed over time. You've got, of course, the classic tea bags.
Yes.
You've got the point. You've got the come here. You've got nodders. You've got nopers, which both can do. Both
Mhm.
killer and survivor can do nodders and nopers.
Yep.
Um, you you've got killers have hump tech, uh, which is something that some people don't like, but other people find hilarious. Um, you've got BMing moves like hitting people on hook. You've got um what else? Uh there are certain things that you just kind of do. I don't know. It's fascinating. Like
I feel
if
like a language like I don't know, like maybe like a social anthropologist with specialties in communication would have an absolute field day observing essentially the language that's developed within Dead by Daylight.
they would, because
Because
it kind of is,
yeah,
right?
it is. And it's
Um
funny because it's really it's like it's body language. It's like, am I helping this person and then they just get up and run off, or do they turn it, or do they like run in circles? Like it's all the weird shit that happens that somehow results in actual communication to where at the end of the game, like you're like, good game, and everyone's like, yeah, and you're all like, I don't know what just happened, but it did.
yeah. There's some that you could tell is very aggressive. And not necessarily in a negative way, but can be,
Yeah.
right? Like
Like
like I've
speaking
had
German loudly.
yeah, I've had killers who down me and then immediately just like rapidly shake their mouse left and right to be like, no, right? Like that's the kind of energy that's there with that, right? They're like,
Well, like that's
right?
like that's
Or
go go.
or they'll do things like a huntress who downs me might like throw a hatchet at my body,
Yes, I've
right?
seen that.
Or like some other ways that like killers can teabag, right? Like Ghostface, he can obviously actual teabag,
Yeah,
right? Because he has the crouching ability. Or
yeah.
like Trapper will like start to do the set trap motion on top of you and then like stop doing it over and over again.
Or the killer
Same with
picking you up and
Hag.
dropping you randomly, even
Well,
a little bit.
that's more like when I do that, it's more like to let the person like off my shoulder, so
I've
that way
seen
they can
them
like,
do it too, just to be like, and here I'm moving you, thump.
oh, fair enough. There's that as well. But ostensibly, like there's like really silly stuff, you know. Or like if they down you because they made a good play, they might like give nodders, be like, yeah, that was good, right? What I'll do is if I'm in a chase with somebody and they make a really good play, I'll stop and I'll give them nodders and I'll stay still for a moment to give them a chance to do that back as like an acknowledgement of good job,
Yeah, you have
right?
like a moment of let's stop this and applaud this moment.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
that's the
good.
thing that gets me. Like, oh my gosh. I always think of and I know I've told you this story before, and I think I told it in one of the previous episodes, but it just still gets me like during because I feel like all of that gets augmented even more, especially if there's the new chapter in beta. Like,
Mhm.
let's be real, because when it's in beta, it's like everybody knows this could be total chaos. And
Yeah.
I always remember the one chapter I played in beta was Resident Evil, because oh, go figure, I'm a Resident Evil fan. No shit. Which
Mhm.
meant there were tons of games where it was just Nemesis versus like Leon Jill, or like Leon in various stages. And I remember one game that was Nemesis during all four of us were Leon, which of course meant we were all being, because we all thought we were hilarious. So prior to the match starting, we're all going, hello, Leon, hello, Leon, hello, Leon. Like, that's the extent of our chat, is us just sitting there doing like that stupid Jurassic Park where he's like, hello, John, hello, John. And we're all just like, hello,
Yeah.
Leon. But then we got there, we're at the ski lodge, and three of us are about to make it out, and Nemesis catches one of the Leons and downs him, and the three of us are all standing in the doorway, and we're like, and it's just this unspoken moment of, we must save Leon. This
Mhm.
is the collective Leon. And the three of us all run at Nemesis. And again, unspoken communication. None of us talk to each other. We all just turned and just ran at Nemesis and start like swarming around him, and then trying to heal the other Leon, and the Nemesis would like hit me and knocked me down, so then another Leon was healing me, and it just turned into this chaos of Leon's like shining flashlights and just like running around Nemesis, because if you didn't have a flashlight, well then all you could do was either heal the other Leon or just be in this chaos of swarming Leon, so Nemesis didn't know which Leon he was hitting. That
Mhm.
somehow resulted in us getting all four of us back on our feet and limping to the gate and getting out. And I think when we all got out, we were all just kind of like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
Like, but it's those weird moments where I'm like, none of us said a word to each other. Like, it was just, I think at one point we were teabagging around Nemesis, even. Like, that was how chaotic it was. It was like one Leon had a flashlight. The rest of us, it was like, well, I have nothing I can use to shine a light or anything, so I'm just going to literally run in circles around this area and teabag.
That that's another thing that is a really good communication tool is flashlights.
The flashlights
Because you
do
can
work.
like you can click a flashlight at a person and then click in a different direction to be like, hey, go over there, or hey,
Mhm.
do this,
I
or
haven't
something like
seen
that,
that one
right?
done as often, but I would say I don't see a lot of people favor. I haven't seen as many people favor the flashlight.
You can also see like some people who want to get chased, they'll click their flashlight at the killer a couple times,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Back in the day before they changed flashlights, you could just click as fast as you can click your mouse button to make the flashlight click,
Oh
right?
dang.
So so people would be like click 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 click, click and to annoy the killer, right? Because killers hated that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and some would even make a macro where they just like press a button and it just like clicks so fast that it just sounds like a completely like it was like a kind of deal,
Oh my
right?
gosh. That's
Like
hilarious.
it was so bad that some people were like, "This is a photosensitive issue.
Yeah.
It could potentially cause epilepsy."
I could
And
see them
so
saying that, because, and I will say that on like the horror things and things that you see in horror gaming, DBD does not go into the photosensitivity area much.
they've put warnings up in recent times of being like, "Hey, if you have photosynthesis sensitivity issues, be sure you check with your doctor and stuff before you
Yeah.
play."
Be mindful. Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Not
yeah,
like in the way
which I
like,
think is good.
yeah, no, and I like that social awareness. Like, well, like I get the photosensitivity warning every time I load up the Evil Within,
Mhm.
So it's like, but DBD is one of those ones where I'm like, it oddly enough doesn't go through that to the extent that other games do,
Yeah.
you know.
Um, but that and then like there was a bug with Trickster that caused a lot of people to have issues with photosensitivity, and that's what made them like put that uh warning up.
Hmm.
But going back to flashlights, um, that's why they changed the flashlights to what they are now, is because of those issues and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, they've
Which
made some interesting changes over time.
which I think you're touching on, because talking about like Dead by Daylight, a favorite, and also, a horror game But one of the things that has made it truly effective, I think you kind of touched on it, is, you know, unlike a lot of one-off horror games that happen and they're there and like, and for obvious reasons don't get revisited because it's a one story game. They may get remade eventually, but Resident Evil, We're Looking at You, Dead Space, those ones, Dead by Daylight because it's online, but more than that, the developers, and it's fascinating to me, have continued to revisit and improving the game. So it's gone through so many different iterations and changes over the years. I was just watching a thing earlier today where a player went through three different maps and what their old versions were versus what their new versions were. And what was fascinating, my takeaway from all of that was what was really fascinating to me is this wasn't just arbitrary. This was developers taking feedback from the players, which I feel like you see it much more clearly with Dead by Daylight than you see with other games, where there's a very clear element of the developers aren't just looking at the data, they are listening to the verbal channels, like the written and the spoken channels of feedback from players. And they're also adding it up against like their play data. Like one of the maps that they said they fixed, they said, this is the feedback we got from players. And then we went and we looked into the actual gameplay data and we saw that this reflected what players were saying. This was a very survivor favoring map. So we've done a few things to balance it out. And so it fascinates me because it's really cool to see that in a game, that there's a lot of interest in engaging with the players to create something that continues to resonate with audiences.
I partially
I
agree.
was going to say, you have the face like you're going to disagree with me.
I partially agree in that there are some things that they will listen to feedback on and they'll be like, okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Um, they even have a group of people who I I don't know how many people know who they are. Like I know one of, and that's Hens. Hens is one of them, but they have like an inner group of players who play test certain things, who mess with certain stuff and whatnot, and then they give their feedback to the developers, which the developers can take it or leave it.
Yeah.
It's not their Fog Whisperer program. That's more like a ambassador kind of like I am a face that represents Dead by Daylight, right? Kind
Yeah.
of deal.
That's more
Um,
brand
it's
ambassador. Yeah.
it's brand ambassador. It's kind of surface level. They get a few cool little extra things and stuff,
Yeah.
but
That one's
that's
more
kind of what it
marketing
is.
rather than than I would say development.
Yeah. Whereas the other group, they're a little bit closer to that idea of development, but they know that their feedback could be taken or left.
Hmm.
Um, and that's kind of how the current Myers change occurred. Actually, is
Hmm.
because of them, which pardon me. Myers now gains stalking progress from further away instead of being closer.
Hmm.
So uh it's more of a stalking mechanic as opposed to
Hmm.
like running up to your face and staring at you until he can kill you,
Yeah.
right?
But that actually
Because
kind of
that's
works in line with kind of even just how Myers is historically in films.
well in films he would always be like far away, like he's always like just like staring and waiting, and then like when he gets found or like somebody turns away briefly, he ducks away and then he's gone,
Hmm.
right?
But then even
Like
like I think of like the original like Halloween's 1 and 2, where like what was to me is eerie in watching those is that he's not running after Laurie, he's walking at a distance, but it's that continuous he's still coming.
yeah.
So
um so they changed it to where he could get better stalk from further away. Survivors have more stalk points in them, so that way if he doesn't have like infinite tier 3 or whatever, he can get more chances to do tier 3 in a match than before. Um so that was very interesting. But they listen to some feedback, but they don't always listen to feedback.
yeah, but that's the
Um
nature of R&D though too, and taking feedback. I mean, when I say that they're taking feedback, it's not that they're taking all of it, but that's even just business acumen. I mean, when I was working in corporate aspect of pet care, I got to see what some of like our surveys feedback we get
Mhm.
from clients would be.
Yeah.
And, in going through the survey data and looking through client feedback, there was plenty of data where I'm like, yes, this is something we need to improve. We're actively working on it. Or, hey, that's an interesting idea that a client suggested, and we're trying to figure out how to implement it or make it happen. But there would definitely be feedback suggestions where I'd be like, no, we're never going to do that.
Well,
And that's just knowing the brand, the capability, and also knowing, okay, that's not what we're setting out to do. And sometimes I'd see the feedback suggested more than once, and it's just like, okay, so a few people want that, but that's not going to happen. That's not what we're looking to do. And I think to me, that's the balance of a game that's got a lot of user input, dri- that has a lot of user input driving it. Is you still have to
well,
walk that tightrope.
let me give you, I think, probably the best example that I can think of.
Mm-hmm.
Pixel Bush. He's a content creator.
Mm-hmm.
He is heavy into the lore. Like he is the lore guy.
Yeah.
Um, he also mains two killers, one being the twins, and the other one being Skull Merchant. And for those of you who are curious about Skull Merchant and haven't heard of her, good. Uh, but I will say, Skull Merchant since her trailer, her teaser trailer, has been inundated with just bad press, bad images, just like a really bad time, right? And I remember this because when I first saw her teaser trailer, I was like, oh man, they're going to bring in like some sort of Terminator in here, right? Because it looked like we were getting some sort of like cyborg or something. But no, she's not a Terminator. She's just like some rich lady who likes to go human hunting. The greatest game or
So
whatever,
like a
if you want to call it,
purge
right?
person.
Like a purge person or somebody who has an island that is specifically for abducting people to hunt them,
Yeah.
right? She's that person. And she has a lot of businesses. She's like a multi-billionaire kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so she's been inundated with like this constant like curse of her abilities being really, really bad for the game in a lot of ways. Her first iteration, people would go, they would find a 3 gen setup. And for those who don't know, just quickly, survivors have to get out by doing 5 gens out of 7 on the map and then open the gate and leave.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, these gens spawn randomly on a map, and the closest 3 is what we call a 3 gen. Um, and having a 3 gen means that a killer can stay in that area and protect those generators from being done, which stalls out the game, which can cause the game to just die after an hour because the game auto shuts down after an hour and it counts as like the survivors dying,
Mm-hmm.
right? At least that was when I last checked in on it. So what skull merchants would do back then is they would set drones down because the drones would be able to cause injuries, cause status effects, and cause survivors to just not be able to do generators, because the survivors could not avoid the spinning scanners in the drones that she would set up that would cause these afflictions and would also let her know that there are people there.
Yeah.
Because she also has a little, not only does she get killer instinct to let her know if somebody's in that area, but she also, whenever somebody gets scanned, she has a little device that shows where they're at on a map.
Oof.
And it'll be a square if they're on the same level as her. It'll be a up triangle if they're above her. It'll
Or
be a down
down.
triangle if they're below her, right? Very simple. Um,
That's a
so
lot of
she would
information
go,
she can get, though.
yes. And if she got you and she hooked you in that 3 gen, she's still not leaving. So people would die a
Yeah.
lot. Or if a single game would go to 40 plus minutes,
Jeez.
because all old scroll merchants would do is find the 3 gen, set up the drones, and wait.
Yep.
And they would have 4 perks that were all dedicated to damaging generators. And so you wouldn't get anything done. You would just be suffering for 40 plus minutes, or until you just said screw it, ran up to her and said, "Get me out of this game."
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
That's definitely an unbalanced character creation too. It's
so behavior saw this. They saw the immense complaining, and it took them a while to get there, but they came out with a slightly different version of Skull Merchant. Um, the Skull Merchant could still do 3 gen things, but some of the adjustments that were made it like not very good. So some Skull Merchants were kind of like moving away from it. And that thing was like damaging a generator would also cause, how would I say it? Okay, I know. Let me start over. Damaging a generator would count towards this clock, so to speak. This counter. And if a killer damages a generator 8 times, they no longer can damage the generator. They could still kick the generator, right? Because certain perks work off of like kicking a gen, like Dragon's Grip. You
yeah.
know, you kick a gen, survivor touches it, they get exposed for so much time and scream.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't get to damage it or regress it anymore.
Yeah.
And they did that in part because of Skull Merchant.
Yeah.
Um, so anything that's not Hex Ruin, if it damages the gen for, I forget how much percentage, it counts toward that thing of like slowly the generator will no longer be damageable.
Hmm.
Um, and so Pixel Bush, he loves Skull Merchant, and he saw a way to play Skull Merchant that was not like that. And he made a guide, a video guide. And this video guide is an hour and a half long, I
Jeez.
think. It covers everything regarding that version of Skull Merchant,
Jeez.
which is the previous version of Skull Merchant, I should note. And he even covered ways that he would he made another video where he would cover ways to buff her, or to change her
Hmm.
in a way that would be healthier for the game. I'd completely thrown out Skull Merchant as a character until
Hmm.
his video about how to play her. And when I watched it, I was like, this is genius. And this and it's not boring. It's not boring. It because she's essentially a trap killer.
Yeah.
She's like the most recent trap style killer that they've had. Before they had Trapper and Hag, right? They would set a trap, and then if survivors triggered that trap, something bad would happen,
Yeah.
right? So Skull Merchant was the third one, essentially, right? Um, and so Pixel Bush showed ways that you could cleverly use drones to work with survivors in such a way that you didn't have to do the 3 gen style. And
Hmm.
so I started playing Skull Merchant and started experimenting with that style. And I loved it. It wasn't boring. Matches still lasted that general 5 to 15 minutes that they last. And like it was fun. It didn't even involve much of any kind of kicking of gens or anything like that. Right. But to move on, he made a video where he was like, here's where I would suggest buffs and changes and stuff to Skull Merchant to make her healthier for the game. And let me look him up real quick. Because I just need to see something. So like he's been very dedicated to her.
Hmm.
Um and then they made recent changes. And these changes were not something that he liked at all. And he made a massive discussion about it.
Hmm.
He talked about the play test beta and how it was very concerning. He talked about the release, which was even worse.
Hmm.
And he talked about how she was in a really bad place. And it's not like he's somebody who might have like 200 subscribers on YouTube. He's got over 53,000.
Yeah. He's a
Like
substantial figure, and yeah.
yeah. In Dead by Daylight, he's one of the big figures out there. Everybody knows of him, knows him.
Mm-hmm.
and knows where he generally stands.
Yeah.
And so it's it's people like that when they present a lengthy video that includes considerations of other ways to change a character, ways that they would change a character, why they would change the character that way, and they really like think and pull
Mm-hmm.
and piece things together. It makes me wonder when behavior comes out with changes that are, I will say, suboptimal,
Yeah.
why they don't consider people like Pixel Bush when it comes to feedback like that,
Mm-hmm.
when these people are not only dedicated to this specific character, can think of ways that aren't just like, well, I just want to win and I need an auto nuke first second of the match to just win. Like where they actually consider what would be good for both sides, what would be good as far as health for that character and the game, um, all those things like that, and approaches that could be taken and then not be heard.
See, the thing is to me, and this is where I come from, having been in kind of the corporate and the business world, is, and this is where I'll offer the other kind of the flip side of that, is that that's where I think feedback and R&D, especially R&D and feedback that's coming in from outside of the company, comes up also against internal company politics, goals, and the perspectives of theirs. So I don't think they necessarily didn't listen to him, but it's where I would say and it's where the challenge is. And, and it's why I do appreciate, for me, I feel like they do take a lot of feedback and listen. It doesn't mean they implement all of it or they implement it the way that the feedback that is desired, but they have shown from what I have seen that they do listen for it. And but the hard part is where you start to go into when a company is behind something. So you've got, you know, you know, teams of people versus five people. And when you've got investors that you also have to support or whoever's backing you. And that's where, to me, it's like, I feel like they still have taken a lot of feedback. It doesn't mean they do all of it. And it doesn't even mean that all the decisions they make are good ones, like that they take it or apply it well. And I think that's just where the challenge is with, especially with games that are so heavily driven by user input, I would say, as opposed to where when you're making a linear single story game that's not going to be going through tons of different iterations other than like basic patch playability updates, other than like the basic like performance updates, when you're dealing with those, you can kind of be like, okay, we might take the user feedback, we might go a totally different direction when we do it. Like, you know, who knows? Like, to throw an example, as we talked the other week about the Evil Within, who knows if they were going from user feedback when they did Evil Within 2, or if they just completely said, fuck it all to user feedback and went the direction that they chose to do. But, you know, some people like the game, some people don't like the game, but it's a game where it's a little bit more like, who knows what does that mean if there ever was going to be another one. And it's the kind of the same thing I feel like with the Resident Evil games, where it's like each time they come out, it's like, well, nobody really knows. Are they going to take this feedback that's been successful here, or are they going to take this feedback that's been successful there? It's a bit of a grab bag because you know what's worked, but you get so many more minds at play and personalities at play and company politics at play. And I think that's where what we see with Dead by Daylight is kind of the impact of it being a bigger and bigger as they have grown as a production, too, it being more and more involvement. So, and it's not that it devalues the feedback being received even from heavy influencers, outside of it. It's just, this is where my argument would be, is that it's more complicated than we see it from the user end. So I go from the broad strokes that I do see them listening to feedback. It doesn't mean they're always doing it well or making the right decisions, but it is the nature of a creative product that's being worked in committee versus being worked by like a single person, if that makes sense.
And I'll say that's fair. we don't know what goes on in game development meetings or decisions or anything like that. There's no way for us to
Yeah.
know.
It's entirely
Um,
possible that somebody heard the feedback and went, okay, this is helpful, but this is not the direction we want to go. And because that's what I have literally seen in a corporate environment is somebody go, that is good feedback, that is helpful information, that is not what we're choosing to do.
and that is probably the case.
Yeah.
Of and for some that can also come across as we hear you but fuck you.
Yeah.
Um, that could also come across as like, look, we like that idea. I think it's great and all. We just don't have a way to implement that, or we just have this other direction we want to go, and it be more earnest, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. And that's what
Um,
I feel like the feedback or what I have seen of the way the company has generally kind of tried to communicate, like in their writings, in like the things that they put out to fans, what I have seen from me, from what I have seen, feels more like we hear you. Like there is an effort to be earnest, it may be an effort to be earnest and we just won't talk about the thing that we're not doing that everybody wants us to do and we're just going to avoid that subject. I mean, avoidance is a way to not have to deal with it. We've all been there.
and
Nobody talks about the awkward subject that's going to piss off people.
and I will say, like, there's a lot of things that I like about behavior. There are a lot of things I like about Dead by Daylight. Um, but they do a lot of things that a lot of people don't like,
Hmm.
and some of those being things that one could call unethical.
And that gets into the
Things
company politics side of it too.
things like letting thousands of people go,
Yeah.
uh, especially during like holidays and
Yeah.
stuff.
And that's where you
Um,
start to get into like delving into the mire that is game company politics. And I mean, we've both been privy to like the skeletons that have come out of the closets of some game production studios
mhm,
that have, I've seen it from the side of being, hi, welcome. I'm a girl, y'all.
yeah,
I identify as female. I was born female, but especially in gender politics in the gaming community, not going to jump on that full force, but only to say that there have been some skeletons that have come out of the closet of being female in the game development community, you
mhm.
know, and things that have gone on
and
there. And that makes it difficult, I think, sometimes in this element of developing a product.
and not just that, but also in relation to like race and stuff as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of representation issues when it comes to Dead by Daylight. Um, to give an example, Hag,
Hmm.
Lisa, her backstory has been rewritten at least twice, and every time it comes across as very tone deaf.
Yeah.
Um, because it's about a young black woman in New Orleans, and it utilizes things like mystical stuff and whatnot.
So very
And
Lovecraftian, except they're leaning into the parts of Lovecraft that people want to like be like, no, those were not the good sides of Lovecraft.
there may or may not be some stereotypes and stuff
Yeah.
that crop up in those that people would say not very good.
Yeah.
You should probably change it. Um, and that's not to say that certain stereotypes and stuff don't exist, but in that case, I would say, why are you including it?
Well, it's a
What
little
is the
bit like,
purpose of it, right?
yeah. Well, to me, it comes back to a similar thing, which is gratuitous gore and sexuality and or nudity used
Mhm.
in stories. Does it serve a purpose? Or is it just
Right.
there for the sake of being there? Is it there to be gratuitous because it's a punchline? Because maybe we're going the meta humor route. So we're trying to be humorous about that, because I will accept that as also a reasoning for it. Or is it there because throw out a TV example, like, because I was trying to explain it to a family member one time that I'm like, Westworld has a shit ton of nudity in it. And I have friends who have had friends who have worked on it, and they're like, yeah, it's a bunch of naked people walking around set all the time. And I'm like, yeah, but the nudity is not does not feel like an exploitation because the people you're seeing naked, are all supposed to be machines. It
Yeah.
feels much more like, no, this is it puts you in the audience from the mindset of understanding these people are not seen as humans by others. So yes, this is kind of awkward nudity, but that's the whole point of it, you know.
Yeah.
But whereas, I'll throw out another example. If you like this version of Halloween, good for you. It was not my take. I think Rob Zombie's Halloween is gratuitous. And
It's Rob
gratuitous
Zombie.
more. Yeah, and I mean, it's in line with his style, but objectively as just a movie for its own sake. Like, taking out
Mhm.
the reputation of Rob Zombie and what you don't or expect from him, because for me, I wasn't really familiar with the Rob Zombie style. When I watched it, it was like, this just feels gratuitous for gratuitous sake, you
That's
know?
him. Yep.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, maybe
Yep.
that's his trademark. And if you like him for his trademark, fine, whatever. But as an immediate example of like, if somebody's going to ask which Halloween do you recommend, I will always recommend the original John
Mhm.
Carpenter over the Rob Zombie, because to me, the choices made there are much more they're thinking about how they contribute to the story and the
Yeah.
storytelling and the narrative and the experiences of the audience, whereas the other one feels like we must have tits and boobs and are
Yeah.
even framed in such a way that it's we must have tits and boobs. And
Yeah.
that's something that, to that end, with Dead by Daylight, gets me wondering, because you have been playing it longer than I have.
Mhm.
I wonder, because one of the things that to me stands out about Dead by Daylight is it's like somebody said, what if we could take the survival horror element for audiences that they see in all the movies and give them a way to be able to immerse and experience it for all these things? But it's also where it's kind of fun that you get Haddonfield, you get all these places that people know from pop culture, horror, iconic horror films, and why you have killers that are all icons out of horror, like so many killers that are. But to me, it makes me kind of wonder of what resonates more with a lot of people. Like, and I say this as I don't really dig into the story lore of Dead by Daylight at all that much. I just enjoy playing the game and it's fun. But because there are so many killers that are not original to Dead by Daylight, that there are, we got licensing, so now we can incorporate this in. And so, you know, their lore is kind of established outside of the game
Mhm.
versus the ones where they're being exclusively created for the game. Like the Stranger Things chapter.
Mhm.
You know, you got Steve and Nancy and the Demogorgon. Those are all exclusive to Stranger Things. There is no, you know, the lore is exclusive to Stranger Things. It is okay. We understand who these people are, but not because of this game.
Mhm.
And I wonder kind of how that holds up versus the characters that are originals to the Dead by Daylight lore, are within the lore. And I guess more speaking of the killers than the survivors a little bit, but that's because the survivors are they're more straightforward to me.
Well, well, what do you mean by
I guess
hold
I'm
up?
wondering what holds up better, like, or what feels like it holds up better. Like, and I say this even though like I've seen a lot of like people play a lot of original killers. But if you
Yeah.
were going to compare the lores of them, what is actually holding up better? Like, let's jump into the
Uh,
storytelling side of it maybe for a moment. Because as you mentioned, Hag, what you just described to me, and I didn't know, like I said, I don't dig into the lore a lot other than the characters that I already know the lore because they existed outside of Dead by Daylight prior to.
mhm.
Hag's backstory, and lore to me definitely screams of a lot of the things that um, we criticize about H.P. Lovecraft, frankly. The
Uh,
way he uses race and certain things that have become stereotyped that don't really need to be utilized in such a way to tell an effective story.
well, okay. So when it comes to like Hag, I think there are other people who can better speak for her and
Yeah.
the troubles with regard to her background, and I don't want to take that away from them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would prefer they speak, and plenty have.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when it comes to original characters versus licensed characters, behavior has way more freedom to work with original characters.
Oh, yeah.
There
Oh,
are some companies who are a little tighter with regard to what can be done with the characters, like with Freddy.
yeah.
Um, there are others who embrace the whole thing, like with the Saw franchise or Resident Evil, we're very happy to work with Behavior,
Hmm.
especially as Behavior has become a big company and not a small company.
Yeah,
And
it's
I
no
think
longer
that
a little
that
indie investment that may or may not pan
yes,
out.
it's no longer just a hide and seek game that they just kind of made and didn't expect to kick off the way it did, because that's what it used to be when it first came out. Um, when it comes to original characters, there's a lot of room that they have.
Hmm.
The licensed characters, they have some lore, but it's not something that would like directly interfere per se with
Yeah.
the world writ large.
Hmm.
Especially after we saw what happened when Stranger Things, when that license was expired.
Yeah.
What they did was they removed all the characters from being purchased, but you still kept the characters if you had
Yeah.
them and
Yeah,
the
if
cosmetics.
if you had paid for anything with Stranger Things, you basically still had access.
And then the Hawkins map disappeared and the offerings disappeared with like blood point compensation, I believe.
Yeah.
Um, but
Which is a
so we
reasonable move
saw
to make. They probably didn't anticipate that the licensing would eventually go away.
we have no idea,
Yeah.
but I think that probably made them a little more cautious about a lot of licenses. Which is why the Nostromo map, even though it's in the same realm as uh, I forget the name of the map, but the realm is Dvorka, uh, which is an alien realm,
Hmm.
in like the sci-fi world kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, which is why the Nostromo has its own separate offering instead of being tied to the Dvorka offering,
Yeah.
is because it is meant to be still in that same realm, but if they lose the license to Alien, who cares?
And I think that's
Right?
something that they've definitely probably learned from Stranger Things to take into account is how closely with these pre-established lores is it wise to tie them too closely, or do we keep them aloof enough so that from the main lore so that if we lose it, we don't lose we don't have to go back to the drawing board on the whole game, which that's definitely a tightrope to walk, especially
Mhm.
given how many licensed characters. I mean, I would say from my impression at this point, there's more licensed characters than there are, or at least it feels like it. I could be
I
wrong. I haven't looked at it in a while.
I think that there are still more original characters than there
Okay.
are licenses, but
Yeah.
it's close.
Yeah,
It's definitely close.
it's closer than I would say a lot of media and games are that do lean on licensed characters, you know,
Um,
that aren't just like, because like if anybody goes, well, like it's Sony and Capcom, I'm like, yeah, but those are companies that literally own technically the characters that they're utilizing. Like, sorry, Marvel vs.
yeah.
Capcom isn't an example because you're literally talking about like Marvel and Capcom own these characters, so they can use as many as they want.
Well, they each own their own characters.
Yeah, but they're
Like
partnering. Yeah, but they're
they have to
partnering
come
on the game.
together.
Yeah, well, it's a little
Yeah.
like, like Kingdom Hearts, okay, well, they're all these licensed. Yeah, but Kingdom Hearts was Disney originally started as Squaresoft and Disney getting together. Like, I want to know how that conversation happened because I feel like that was somebody got stuck. I feel like that was a Disney person. It was in the building, a Disney person and a Squaresoft person were in the same building, got stuck on an elevator together, and devised a game and pitched it to their
I
collective guys and it became a thing. But that's when the first Kingdom Hearts, because, including now that it's called Square Enix, but when it first came out, it was Squaresoft and Disney, and it was like, this is a huge deal because it's Disney getting together with Squaresoft to create a game combining both of their licensed characters, plus some original ones.
mhm.
So, and that was a big deal at the time because it was like, holy crap, we're getting Final Fantasy characters crossing over with Disney characters. I mean, Cloud gets to talk to Goofy. This is weird.
Yeah.
It was like, what alternate world are we walking through right now? So,
Yeah.
but again, that's a case where the production companies are the ones that owned everybody going in. So, whereas
Yeah.
with Behavior and Dead by Daylight, this was much more of, I would say this is much more unique in that it's like there are the characters that are created by Behavior that are exclusively Dead by Daylight characters, but then the licensed content is coming from all over the map.
Yeah.
I mean, Freddy Krueger is like Paramount and New Line Cinema. Jason is you name it. Netflix was
Well,
Stranger Things, you know.
Jason doesn't exist yet
Oh,
in
Jason. I'm
Dead
I'm
by
thinking
Daylight.
I'm thinking Michael and I'm saying
Oh
Jason.
yeah,
I do
Myers.
that all the time, honestly. I don't know why I specifically do that with Michael and Jason, but I do that with Michael and Jason all the fucking time.
Yeah.
So,
Um.
which is weird. I don't know why, but yeah, it's kind of what I'm thinking with that is whereas with them with their licensing, it's much more like I want to know what that department looks like that handles all the licensing, like just how chaotic their filing system is.
mhm. I I imagine that it is a big mess.
Hmm.
As in like there's so much going on that like it's hard to keep up.
Yeah,
Um
because
but
frankly, it's they're so all over the map. It's like, come on, guys, you've got characters from all across cinema and gaming.
horror,
Yeah, the
yeah.
genre as it applies to cinema, gaming, you name it.
Yeah. Which is really neat, like they even have this whole thing that they're proud of where they're like we're the hall of horror or like we're the museum of horror, right? Like
They
that's
kind of
that's their
are.
thing.
Yeah.
And you know, I would say, yeah, you are, and that's great. Um, when it comes to their lore, though, to kind of like circle back around to that,
Hmm.
I think some characters they designed the lore well. Like my survivor main, Yui,
Hmm.
she has phenomenal lore. Her lore is well taken care of. Um, for whatever reason, I don't know why that is. I'm glad as far as she's concerned. But others they don't get any kind of love, really.
Hmm.
Like, I don't know when the last time Claudette, who's one of the four main survivor faces of Dead by Daylight, has gotten lore.
I would say I feel like you
Um,
used to main Claudette a lot too. Maybe not
I,
truly main, but you would play Claudette. I remember in some of the customs.
hmm,
Maybe a little bit.
uh,
I still see
maybe.
her periodically, but yeah, there's like other than just being a face in the game.
And then like others get like uh a lot more. Like Yui got two, and while I'm not upset about that as far as like the character getting like lots of lore, there's other characters who've been neglected who haven't gotten that.
Yeah.
Um, and they could really use that.
Yeah, it sometimes
Um,
makes you wonder if is this character not getting it because they're not a priority or just you guys haven't been able to come up with something that you like, because when you're
I
creating your own lore, it's versus adapting pre-existing lore, that's two different puzzles to solve. One is creating
yeah,
lore, creating it, and the other is how do we adapt it?
and then some. It's a case of like they also need to consult with people. Like they consult a lot of K-pop folks when it comes to the Trickster and Yunjin,
Mm-hmm.
which is why they get things that they get and why their lore and stuff is designed the way it is because they consult with people.
Yeah.
They don't always do that. They haven't always done that. Um, Again, Hag being a good example, they didn't really consult with anybody regarding her
Yeah.
and all that. Um, but when it comes to others, they do. I don't know what decisions come into play with that. Again, I'm not in the meeting rooms with them,
Yeah. I'd
so
be
I can't really
curious to be in the
say.
writing room with them. Like I feel like the writer's room in Dead by Daylight would be a very interesting place to be.
It could be.
Yeah.
Um, I know that a lot of their lore has not been the greatest. Some of it's been pretty tepid and mild. Some have taken off pretty well. Some are just bad. It's a really mixed bag, and I don't know who it is that's writing that stuff, but like,
Yeah. I think that part of it
it
points back to horror not well, it's a popular genre, it's a very subjective genre and not necessarily an easy one either,
sure.
you know.
Um, but there's a lot of that lore that's just universally not good. Um,
Yeah.
it, and a lot of that is earlier stuff too. If you and you could tell some of that is just like inexperience and like being a small studio and stuff where they're just like write up a brief little thing and that'll be what it is,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If you look at like the lore of like when you open up like the character info thingy for say Dwight, right?
I used to
It's
main
like
Dwight.
it's like a paragraph,
Dwight is
right?
such white bread.
But if you go and you look at Dracula, you'll see like 5, 6 pages of
Yep.
initial lore for this man about how he came to be in the entity's realm and stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Now, can we take a
and
moment though, because I have to interrupt this to take a moment that there is adapting lore, there's creating lore, and then there's we're just gonna put Nicolas fucking Cage into this game.
to be fair, he did get a little bit of lore,
He did, but it's just at that point I want to sit there and go, that's a whole different level of lore. It's
but
Nicolas
but I
fucking
will
Cage.
but I will say like that leans into the horror comedy kind of thing,
Yeah.
right? Like there's comedy and horror that kind of like link together, and part of that is Nick Cage,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
You have
and
an
I
actual actor using themselves to be in this horror thing.
yeah.
And it's not the first time he's played himself in something.
No, and it's
Um,
not the first it's not the first time we've seen him in the horror genre in a sort of off the wall way, which I think
yeah,
is one of the beauties of Dead by Daylight is yeah, we can lean into a lot of the horror lore, but it very much milks the comedic style of it. I mean, even Ash in it,
mhm.
bringing in, oh,
Bruce Campbell.
thank you. My brain is just totally shot. But bringing Ash into it and Bruce Campbell, where it's like, come on, guys. Evil Dead's considered horror comedy.
Yeah.
It's
Um,
campy. It's ridiculous. It's off the wall.
same
It's brilliant.
same with Chucky.
Yep.
They got the child's well, they didn't get the child's play license. They got Chucky.
Mhm.
I should be clear about that.
A little
I'm
more
pretty sure
plural.
there's a difference.
Yeah.
But they got Brad Dourif and they got Jennifer Tilly to come in and do the voices for their characters, and they got a lot of voice lines.
Yeah.
Which I will say, other than like the um the plague, nobody had voice lines for the longest time in this game.
I was going to say the closest it came to vocal dialogue was just the
Yeah,
moaning
like
sex noises.
especially if you're Rebecca.
Okay, Leon's
But
are really very, very strong too.
yeah, but most of them have not had voice lines until Plague, which I would argue is the first time that a character had voice lines, even though maybe they made up her words, but they're still voice lines.
Hmm.
They're still sentences and stuff. But after that, there was the trickster who got voice lines. Granted, it was all in Korean because he's Korean,
Of course.
right? But he got voice lines.
Hmm.
And then people seeing they saw how popular that was, and then they started doing more.
Yeah, yeah.
When Hellraiser came to Dead by Daylight, and at first it was somebody else who's doing an impersonation of Doug Bradley, but
Hmm.
then they took those voice lines away for a bit, and then they got Doug Bradley in, and he did the voices, and then they did some adjustments because he's an older man now. He
Yeah.
can't really like come off the way he did back then. Um, and then they put those in, and people loved them, and then they started doing it more and more and more.
Yeah.
And now you've got like Chucky who has like well over 300 lines of
Yeah.
dialogue.
Hey, even
And
Nemesis says stars.
yeah, that's true. He does.
Nemesis got a
Um,
voice line, and that thing only says one damn word.
yeah. Um, I like the idea of like a character having like a couple of voice lines, but with all the characters getting so many voice lines, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
I would rather them be like silent other than screaming in pain or whatever.
I have to admit, especially like going back to what we were talking about of like the sort of social anthropology thing of language in Dead by Daylight when you don't have really any precise vocal channel to communicate with other players. It almost feels
Mhm.
weird to have the characters talk
Yeah.
because it's almost become this game that to me is synonymous with nobody says anything. If it's a survivor, it's because speaking out loud is dangerous. If it's a
Mhm.
killer, it's because why the fuck do you need to talk? They're already running from you. So
Yeah.
it's very, and adding a vocal channel can a lot of times make or break a character. Like I think of like going back to listening, like if you listen to behind the scenes footage from like the original Star Wars before they dubbed James Earl Jones in, you
Mhm.
know, when you can hear the original actor behind the mask and you just sort of sit there going, I'm really glad we got a dubbed James Earl Jones in there because the impact is completely different when
Yeah.
you hear what's his face? Oh, Prouse as that. And you know, kudos to him. He was the suit. But
Mhm.
vocally, I'm really glad we got James Earl Jones because it just Vader does not hit the same way. So, but it's, and I think that's a trick. Like, you know, if I'm not mistaken, there's no vocal lines unless have missed it. Like Wesker has no vocal lines, right?
Oh, he has a lot of voice lines.
Really? I've missed all of them.
He does.
That's odd to me.
Like,
See, I've
how
not
do you
heard
miss
any.
any of
No,
them?
I didn't hear any of them. Admittedly, I have not seen him played as a killer. I have not played against him with him as a killer often because I was doing a lot more playing when the Resident Evil chapter first rolled out. So then it was just Nemi, and
Mhm.
I was sort of delayed on joining in. But I've only had gone up against Wesker a couple times, and I swear there were no vocal lines those times.
Well, he's got a flood of them. My man is a sassy son of a bitch.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, I'll just use Resident Evil example though, because some of those villains have really campy voices. And I'm
Mhm.
talking like go back to some of the OG Resident Evil games. It's like, you know, some of them vocally are very campy sounding,
Yeah.
you know.
I
And
mean,
I mean, it's where you can lean into the horror comedy to it, but to me it is a
yeah.
very cautious thing when you start slipping the vocal channel in there more and more.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. I have grown to not like it. I have appreciated the originals and like the older ways of vocal work, which is just efforts.
mhm.
Um, I think there's a lot more that's communicated through that.
Yeah. I don't
Um,
mind like a one or two line, but if you're getting to the point where it's like other than if there's some special reason. Like I get for like say there was I and again, you know, say they said, "Oh, we brought in Robert England and he's going to voice Freddy." I would not
mhm,
object to there being far more vocal lines for Freddy because
mhm,
you've got the Freddy. It's the same with Nicolas Cage, Bruce Campbell, like those guys and coming in and voicing their own iconic original character or their own iconic characters, or in Cage's fake case, himself as a caricature, whatever. That to me makes sense. And yeah, lean into that a little bit, partly because on a marketing and a business standpoint, that's a selling point that you
yeah,
brought these people in, that you brought the OGs in. Brad Dourif coming in to do Chucky, that's a selling point, you know.
yeah,
But to me, I'm like, if there's not something really iconic vocally, you know, like you're not, if you, to me, this would be one of those areas where I'd say from a business standpoint, if you can't market the vocal side of it, then don't try to. Like, okay, yes, Nemesis can still say stars, but that's arguably, you could argue that's not even really a vocal line. It's literally one word that he says. And there's no voice associated with it. It's basically filtered voice,
mhm,
you know. So I would say other unless, you know, like something like that or anything else, if there's not a marketable reason to utilize a voice, like, hey, original actor so and so is coming in to do this, or this character is iconic for their one-liners,
mhm.
then don't push it. Like one or two lines, maybe, if they are relevant. But let's
Yeah.
be real, like Bubba ain't gonna talk. Bubba's just gonna
No,
scream
I
at
love
most,
Bubba.
you know.
I love Bubba so much.
Bubba's just gonna be like, "Rah!"
Listen, listen. Setting DBD aside for a second, you got to play Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, we're gonna touch on this film so much.
Oh,
Oh,
I mean the ASIM game
oh, that game, that
by
game.
Gun. Yeah, you got to play that with me
I
sometime.
do need to.
It's look, it's not a strong competitor against Dead by Daylight, but it's the best one that's out there right now, and it's silly in its own ways. Um, but getting back to DVD, I'm sorry, I just
We
had
had
that
to. We have to. Yeah. Oh,
brief
come on.
tangent.
Brief tangents
Um,
always. Now, I do want to jump back with DBD because, since we've been talking a lot about horror games and we're doing this one as kind of like one of your favorite horror games,
mhm,
and I have to admit it's right up there for me. I think I gave it as like one of my favorites as well. To me, what makes it like such a good horror game is it really combines the experiential side of horror for the audience,
mhm,
you know, to me. Like, but does the thing that also, frankly, it's fun.
mhm,
It's fun. And for me, like, the thing about, horror gaming is I want to enjoy it.
mhm.
And, people like to see there, people who like horror like generally like to be scared. Like I've done haunted mazes before and they are fun. They're terrifying as fuck when somebody's coming after you with a chainsaw, but it's fun. It's adrenaline pumping. It's sneaking. It's like I was the one who liked playing like hide and seek at night with people in a building. I remember as a kid we had a slumber party. Our youth group had a slumber party night, like where like the grades and the different grade gender groups split off and stayed in different places. So a lot of them were staying at families' houses, but I was a junior in high school then. In the junior ladies, we got to utilize the actual church, and we went to this big ass church building, and we played body body in the church. Which is a really hilarious thing to say that I played body body in a church. It was basically a bunch of teenage high school girls running around a church playing, like basically RPing a werewolf game before they were really considered that, where there was a killer in this running around, and if we found a dead person, yeah, like body body, and then sitting there deciding who we were gonna kill in a church.
Mhm.
But it's fun. I've always loved that sort of experiential, adrenaline pushing, sneak around horror type thing,
Yeah,
And for me, that's what makes Dead by Daylight such a good horror game. Like, so what for you? What is it? I want to know.
it is a mixture of having to try to outwit the other person,
Hmm.
trying various different things to put pressure on them to try to make them mess up. It is the satisfaction of seeing a really strong play. It is being in these different worlds that kind of like act as board games, like as the board of the board game, right?
Hmm.
With procedurally generated like randomized tiles that you're familiar with to a degree, but also have like little things that change about them here and there that make you have to make different decisions. It is the comedy of errors
That's
and
a good way of
stupid
describing it.
things and stupid things that happen that make you go, well, that's embarrassing or that's hilarious. It's it's moments like if I get downed and the killer vigorously gives me nopers right in my face
Yep.
and then just starts humptecking me. I am dying laughing every time.
Yep.
It's funny.
That's
And it's a moment in time where you can just kind of take a break. You can let the rest of the world go and you can jump into this game that's not meant to be serious, that isn't serious, and just see what you can do. Just fuck around and find out. Uh
truly, truly.
it's and you get to play like these iconic characters if you want. or you get to play like these other characters that become iconic because the game has some really good original characters.
Hmm.
You know, like I love playing Huntress.
You
I
do. I've
love
seen you play Huntress a lot.
I love throwing shit at people, and I love getting orbitals. When I get an orbital, it's there's nothing like it. It's like somebody punching your dopamine button with all the fury of 1,000 exploding suns. That's how good it feels.
I love it. I love it. Yeah,
So when it comes to like Dead by Daylight, the video game, it is it has its problems, both on the corporate side of things and in the game. It has its problems. It does, but I still have a good time playing it. I've made a lot of friends with it. I've made a lot of connections with it, and that's something that you can't just get from nowhere.
exactly. Dead by Daylight brings people together.
Like
Possibly
I
because you're killing your friends, or your friends are trying to not die, but it brings us all together.
or you're making new friends by killing them. Uh but I even have merchandise from the company. I have
I
a
love it.
mug,
I
I
love it.
have two hoodies, I have at least one shirt. I've got two sets of the U2s that they did. Kind of U2s are like Funko Pops, but a different company.
Yeah.
Um, I've got the board game and the expansion to the board game, which I will say this to all of you out there, all you Voidwalkers. If you like this game, this if you like Dead by Daylight and you want to keep this game past the point where the live servers die, get the board game,
Yeah. Or if you want
get
to
the
introduce
expansion.
people who have no interest in gaming, like computer or console at all,
Yeah,
but they enjoy a good hardcore game.
get the board game because the board game plays pretty similar
I
to
actually need to get that and
the
see what
video game. It plays similar to it, and it's you and your buddies. There's no there's no risk of like toxic people or whatever. There's no risk of hackers or anything like that. It's a good investment of your money. The quality of the product inside the box is pretty good. It's fantastic. Um and the models that you get, you can paint. You can paint the models.
I think I'm gonna have to get
And
this game actually, because I just realized I think I might be able to get my brother-in-law to play this game.
you should. You
Yeah.
should.
He likes games where he can fight, which I'm like, well, it doesn't get much more fighting than this. You literally are trying to murder people.
Yeah. Uh and every character has a different type of feel to them. They have their own strategies, and all the survivors have to work together at that board game table to try to get out. It's really good.
Hmm.
I will say it's about an hour of playtime.
That's not bad though. And if for anybody out there who's intimidated by board games with like, oh my gosh, this game is huge and long, like if you've ever avoided playing, what was it? Arkham
Arkham
Horror,
Asylum or
Arkham Asylum,
Arkham
because
Horror.
it's like I can never remember.
I
Because
think it's
it's
Arkham
Arkham
Horror.
Horror,
That's it.
yeah.
Yeah.
But if you've ever avoided like some of those co-ops because you're like it takes too long, an hour is a good length. An
Yeah.
hour is a good
And
like sweet spot length on board games. And I've
a
played
Dead
some longer ones and I enjoy them, but not everybody's into that.
yeah. A Dead by Daylight does have complicated uh some complicated little bits, but for the most part, it's pretty simple. I think that they could benefit from putting out something that like clarifies rules
Hmm.
in a couple of places, but other than that, like it's a good game.
Yeah. So our little pitch. Get
Yep.
Dead by Daylight board game. I need to, honestly. I want to see if I can introduce my dad to it. So, because he
You
like
should.
he's the one who goes to the board game convention in Dallas every year. Okay, come on. I'm amazed he hasn't brought this one up to me. He was just telling me about getting a copy of The Thing, which he said was actually a really good co-op game.
Nice.
And it was actually out of print for a long time, but they started reprinting it because it was by popular demand. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, come on, he would enjoy this, I'm thinking. But yeah. Oh, Dead by Daylight, how we love you.
Yep. Good bowling night.
Bowling night. I am gonna leave us on the what was it the other moment I had when I think it was in a game against I think it was against Bubba, and I still loved the fact that he downed me and then ran off to
Yeah.
down somebody else or hook them, whatever. And I managed to get myself into some tall grass and had the brilliant moment of him walking around the weird obstacle that I was right next to, but because of the tall grass, he couldn't see me. And so it looked
Mhm.
like he was standing like over top of me and had no idea I was there. Or like he walked right past me and I'm like, I can't believe I lived through that.
Sometimes those things happen.
This is the beauty
Amazing.
of these games. Oh my goodness.
Okay. Well
Well
then,
then.
what what do we have next? We do not know quite yet. I'm assuming something to do with zombies, perhaps,
Um,
but maybe they will shamble forward into episode 6.
mm-hmm. Yep. So folks, zombies or monsters or who knows what. We
Who
sometimes make this up
knows?
as we go, y'all. We
Just
plan a
like
little.
just like any good story.
Hmm.
But
Speaking
yeah,
of, I've been really proud of the fact that I've actually managed to keep writing on this one story piece I've been doing.
yeah.
Like, yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm in like 140 some odd pages now written.
Oh wow, that's really
Yeah,
good.
I've actually managed to write it. Also, fun thing to anybody who's intimidated by writing, if I haven't planned out the whole story, this is a total aside, but I was thinking about it last night. It's okay. I had this story that was broad strokes, much broader strokes, with a few specific scenes. As I've been writing it, I've been coming up and finding inspirations for scenes I never would have thought of until I sat down and actually wrote it that have helped fill in all the gaps. So
Very nice. So where
trust the
can
process.
our void walkers find you?
I can be found. I don't know why I said that that way. I'm on Twitch, Lady Hyacinth 57. Lady Hyacinth as in the flower, 57. You can find me. I play games or let's play games good or I'm scaring myself, playing a lot of horror games, doing some speed running. We are definitely going back to Evil Within because after yesterday when Hamster enlightened me of that trick with the fire and Laura, I looked it up and holy shit, you literally
Oh
can
yeah.
her. I watched it. I'm like, I need to try this. I need to try this. That also might be the only way to speed run that fight. Like,
Oh.
let's be real, because Laura's a difficult fight, but
I
it might
think
be a
you can
guaranteed kill.
I think you can zip that. I don't
Well, you
remember.
can run out of that one. Yes, you can escape it, but if you're going to go speed run by actually killing all the opponents, then and
Ah,
it actually worked very quickly. The
that
person who
might be
did
the
it.
case.
So I have to try this. I have to try this technique. But so yes, I am on Twitch, Lady Hyacinth 57. You can also find me on Instagram and TikTok as Elkshire, Elkshire. I don't do much except post pictures of my dogs and my art on IG, and TikTok is mostly my Twitch videos.
Mhm.
What else is new? No! Dear Dave, where can they find you?
Well, y'all can find me at twitch.tv/sheriff_Flynn.
Oh, see, you give
Right
them the
now,
whole last name. I'm just like, you do the math.
well, it's short. Um, you can find me there. I'm playing Blasphemous 2 right now. I'm stuck on a real son of a bitch of a boss.
Mm-hmm.
But that's
You
kind of the
still against
nature
that
of
guy?
yeah.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
I but but it's only like day one that I fought him. Uh, but he's tough. Um, but I typically play horror games like Dead by Daylight and stuff. Next year, starting early next year, I'm going to be bringing back the year of the FMV. Um, which I know that we're recording this late in 2024. So
Hmm.
when y'all hear it, I'm probably already doing this. But um, the year of the FMV is where I'm going to be playing a bunch of FMV style games, so full motion video, living human beings doing things in video games. Fantastic. Some of the stuff I've played before in a previous year of the FMV. Some are new, which I'm very excited for. And I'm going to be doing this with a charity involved.
Nice.
It's the Raptor Trust. And what they do is they help rehabilitate and take care of birds.
Yay.
Um,
We like our birds.
and, you know, that's kind of how it goes.
I
So,
love it. I love it.
Voidwalkers,
Stay, make
don't
sure you're
forget.
tuning in. I'm not doing anything nearly as exciting or charitable, though I am going to be attempting well, I'm calling it a 24-hour run of Resident Evil, but it's really more like a 36-hour run of like all 8 Resident Evil games. So I'm trying to practice speed running now.
Oh, yeah.
The
That's
aspiration
going
is
to be
getting it
brutal.
down to 24 hours, but realistically, it's going to be in the 36 realm.
That's going to be brutal, but I'm excited for you.
Oh my god, it's gonna
I'm
be
excited.
insane.
Um, so yeah. So you
So,
Voidwalkers out there, don't forget to go to the store and ask the local custodian, what is a confabulator
mhm.
anyway?
And if they don't
And
know,
listen,
seance.
seance. All right.
Someone will know. In the meantime, y'all, until next time, be safe, have fun, be nice to each other. Murder is bad. Mostly.
Most
Until next time, y'all, I'm Liz.
I'm Dave.
Peace out.
The Confabulators is hosted by Liz Strauss and David Bockenkamp. Editor is E.W. Klein. Theme music is Oh Heavens by Cassidy B. Composer and artist cbrva.card.co.